So we have UVs now on our new mesh. So if we look at a retopo mesh, we have UVs applied. So now it's time to project our texture details from our 1-to-3D cached mesh onto our new geometry. So with our new geometry selected, we'll just hit 0 on our keyboard. And there are a few things that we're going to want to do here. I kind of have some settings that were done previously, so let's kind of turn that off. So what we're going to want to do, we're going to, with this mesh selected, we're going to want to go down to the projection mapping, and we want to pick what we want to project from. We get this menu here, and we have a picking session now. If you had, let's say, a layer set up, so let's grab my layers. So if we had something like this and it was frozen, when you do the pick, you're not going to have anything visible. So just make sure that freeze is unchecked, and we'll just go ahead and hit pick the mesh. And the second we do this, we're actually going to get on our object, we're going to get a new projection modifier. And this is, there are a lot of settings here that are going to allow us to get a good setup. Here you get to see we have this cage that's in place that looks like a mess. So what we're going to do within the projection modifier settings, we'll just come in and we'll look at cage, and we'll just reset our cage here. So that sets everything back to normal, so there's no push geometry on here. So with that, we'll go ahead and come down, and we need to find where we want to output to. So we'll hit add, and we're going to want to output a diffuse map. Okay, and here are the map settings on the bottom. Right now we have a 256 resolution image. It's going to save out to this location. This is going to be the name of the file, and that's roughly it. There are a few settings that are here. You get to see that we have things like ray mist color is going to turn red, whether or not we're using cage. For the most part, we don't need to go in here, but you get to see our retopo mesh is the object that we're syncing out. But just about that's really all the settings that we need to be aware of. So we can just go ahead and render out, saying that this file exists. I'm just going to override it, and we have a few issues immediately. One, we have a bunch of red, and if we look at that one option that we had in the options tab, it had talked about ray mist being red. So you get to see these are areas where we're not able to sample, where the top mesh isn't able to sample the bottom mesh. And you get to see it's areas where the bottom mesh is clipping through. That's what's going to be red. Okay, so to start fixing that issue, we're going to need to start pushing out our cage. So there are a couple ways we can do this. We can just push out like this, and you get to see that there's less clipping through. So if we go ahead and render, overwrite files, you get to see we immediately have a lot less red. Now there are patches here. Now we can try to continue to push out, or what we can actually do, in addition to just using that cage, let's just wait. In addition to just using that cage, we can actually just do an edit modifier, an edit poly modifier, put it before our projection. So this is going to be something that we're going to use just for this projection. We'll put it here. So now with this, we'll just jump in, and we'll go to our freeform tools, and we're going to set our offset to I don't know, maybe something like 50, and we're going to pick draw on surface. We're going to pick this particular object, and now I'm just going to conform. So areas where I see the bottom mesh, I'm just going to go ahead and start conforming this 20 units out. Let's bring up our conform. So now you get to see we're just conforming out. And then wherever I'm seeing the geometry, I just want to kind of work with that here. Some of this just might be clipping issue or clipping plane issues as far as what we're seeing, but we'll just go ahead here. Just kind of start pulling this stuff out. This is a common area that we're going to have an issue where I'm going to have to pull out a lot in order to get that to transfer. So I just did a little bit here, and we'll just go ahead and render and see what this looks like. Override files. You get to see we cleaned up a lot more of the geometry, which is good. And if I go ahead and start pushing this even further, just let it wait. Got a lot of stuff that I'm doing on this machine. So here we're pushing and pushing and pushing, and let's see. You got to see that there's going to be a common issue down here, and slowly it's being fixed. But areas like this on top of the head, we might have more control using, instead of the projection method, using the conform method. So we'll close this out. Go back down here. Yes, that's fine. And then our offset is set up. We'll grab our conform, and then here we'll just go ahead and sculpt this out. Fix that neck. Okay, so the neck should be good. So now when we go ahead down here and we look at that one patch again, we should be decent. Boop, you get to see how that works. And for the most part, you just want to do that until you no longer see red. Now that's going to clear up one issue. Another problem that we're running into is the fact that our resolution is really low. So what we'll do, we'll up our resolution, 2048 map in this case, and we'll render that out. So now we get to see more of what we're getting. So we have a high resolution image, but we're running into another problem altogether. Here you get to see that we're getting kind of this faceting on our geometry, and we're getting shadows. Essentially what's happening, our camera is going around our object and doing renders. So this is actually how the bottom mesh is rendering out. So we can put in lights in order to fix this, ambient lights, but I like to fix this issue mainly at the material level. So what we'll do here, I'll access the material that's applied to my object, or to my 123D catch object, and we're going to apply a matte shadow shader or something like this, and then we'll just go ahead and apply this to our object, and we'll just take our texture and apply that to our object as well. We can show this in our viewport. And we'll just give that a try. Override files. So now when you're looking at the mesh, we no longer have the faceting, and we no longer have shadows. Everything's completely lit. So there we are. So now these red patches, this is something that we would have to go in and just fix. We'll just go ahead and do that. We'll just wait patiently until the system solves. You get to see the this ear. That's the character's right ear is having some issues, and that's going to be fine. Because there are definitely workarounds that we can do. We can take the UVs from this mesh, from this side of the ear, and put it on this ear texture. We can just hand paint. We have a few options available to us. So on our edit poly, we'll just come back in. Some of the issues that we had were in that hair. I probably should have kept that image open, but that's fine. So we'll come here, we'll conform. We'll just clean up this section here. Conform. 50 might be a little much in this instance, but let's see what we can get. I like this method. Instead of just doing a slider for the entire mesh, you just go ahead and we're just conforming out our geometry. So we're painting just specific areas that need to be tweaked and modified.
It's so hard playing with him because I can't tell him anything. I'm like trying to kill him.
So we got this here. And I'm not going to get all of the red out. I'm just going to get most of it just to show kind of the process here. Okay, so let's say I'm happy with that. We'll hit render, override files, and this should be gone here. I know I didn't touch the back of the head at all, but this should mostly be cleaned up. You get to see there's some clipping here. Okay, so I'll just do the back of the head, the lip, and we'll see how everything looks on our final mesh. So I'll just go ahead, I'll move this over to my other side, my other view. Oh, and yeah, this is pretty bad. So we'll go down to our edit poly, yes, conform, just conform this out. Okay, so that's decent. This ear, whoops. Go to perspective here, the back of the ear. Need some work because I have a little clipping on the back of the ear. I can also do like a conform, relax. That might help out in this area here. Okay, and then we'll just do regular conform. I keep hitting B. This is my Softimage speaking out. The Softimage inside of me. Alright, so here we'll come here, grab these guys out. There's a little clipping on the lip. Okay, and we'll try that. So we'll bring this back into our viewport. We'll render this out, and regardless of the result, we'll just say we're happy with this. So you get to see this is all cleaned up. The ear, that's the area that I fixed up a bit. See the red's cleaned up. I'm still getting a little clipping on the mouth, but I'm happy with the results. So now we'll wait a little bit here. Okay, so we have that, and now I can actually get rid of this altogether. I probably would save out my scene, so I would have a scene with this, or I can just mute this. I no longer need this projection, and I would grab my material. So this material is the one I want to use. We'll just grab this, and then we'll just drop it onto the appropriate mesh. It should be this one. Make sure this is visible in the viewport. Diffuse. Let's change this from constant color. Consistent color should be fine. We'll grab our manage layers or hide our reference. And here we'll make sure that our opacity is at 100%. So right now we have our texture wow, that looks pretty bad. I'm not even sure if this is the right texture here. So let's see. Yeah, I don't believe so. It could be. So let's just hit 0 again. Yeah, it was a different texture altogether. So we'll find the right texture.
Okay, what is this thing?
Render, override. Do a save as here, and we'll just call this I'll just 1 to 3D catch mesh diffuse map is what it will be called. And then we'll apply that texture. All formats, 1 to 3D catch mesh diffuse map. We'll open that up, and hopefully we'll see a much better result than what we had. There we go. Okay, and these seams are here. We just need higher quality projection, and that's easy to set up. But you get to see we have our retopologized mesh with our texture applied. And now we're ready to do texture cleanup. We can clean the seams up by hand. In all the errors by hand, we can add blemishes. And we definitely want to go in and modify our shape, because we have a basic shape set up for our mesh. It's okay, but there are things that we're going to want to go ahead and do and change, and we can go ahead and do those sorts of things within ZBrush or Mudbox.